Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, your host, and today I'm here with Peggy Van De Plassche, and she has so many different opportunities and things that we're going to talk about, especially when it comes to mindset and being able to make sure that we are in a positive mindset and how we get the energy, as we were just talking before that. So Peggy, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you, Charisse. Well, listen, I'm so happy to be here. I couldn't think about a better outlet than talking to mompreneurs. I think there is nothing more difficult than being a mom and than being an entrepreneur. So mompreneurs, you're really combining the most difficult jobs in the world. Well, my background is in finance, 20 years in finance, but I actually fell in health and wellness a few years back, and by via of microdosing psychedelics, and I'm going to tell you everything about that. And the goal is really about, reducing your anxiety, to your point, changing your mindset, and also increasing your energy. So we'll talk about how we can do that, and how as a mom and as an entrepreneur, we can get more out of our life with different techniques.
I love that, because when we were talking before we started, this has been a difficult week for me. Rarely do I let things get me down, but sometimes, I'd say a couple times a year, you just feel like it doesn't matter how hard you're running, that storm or that wind is much harder than what you're running towards it. And so for me, it's been tough this week. And so I think what a better way to end the week than to have you on to talk about.
Thank you. And I think there is something important as well, is that we're human. Mm-hmm. It's normal to feel feelings, and it's normal that all the feelings cannot be just joy all the time, and I think we also have sometimes this mindset in North America. You can hear I'm from France, where it should be happy all the time. And I'm not sure it's the reality of the human condition. So it is fine that sometimes you don't feel amazing. The problem is when you never feel amazing. And I think that's really what's important for us to think about, is what is the temperature, what is the climate of how you feel. And, I suffered from anxiety for a very, very long time. And my thermostat was always very low, because I was always expecting a catastrophe to happen, but also I could not enjoy and I could not be in the moment. And that, I think, is more of a problem. It's normal when you have a difficult week or there is something really specific you can touch, that you're not feeling great about it. The challenge is that when there is nothing specific and you're always feeling down, that is a problem.
And that is a problem. And I'm not going to pick on my state, but I'm going to pick on my state, because in Utah, they talk about how, and this was a long time ago, not necessarily today, but it's Prozac capital of the world, because we have a culture where we do want to be able to be the super mom and be able to handle everything and juggle everything. And it's not just in Utah. I think all moms feel like they need to do that. They have to be the perfect mom for them, and the perfect wife if they're married, and they have to be the perfect everything, and shine at work. And so you're not really taking a lot of time for yourself. And so we've had a lot of conversations on this podcast about self-care and taking time. But this is a topic that we have never talked about before. And we talk about microdosing. So can you tell us what that is?
So microdosing is about taking very small dose of magic mushrooms. And so you don't feel a high, you don't have any hallucination, but what it does is that in the background, it calms your nervous system. So we were talking about anxiety, we were talking about stress, overwhelm as well. Microdosing really help removing that edge out of your nervous system. So instead of always being fight or flight, now you have a bit more space, which allows you to also make different decisions. Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about self-care, very often what is difficult for us as women is that, well, first, we don't have the time, we don't have the energy, we don't have the resources. But I would say more importantly, we have this belief that we should not. Mm-hmm. Everyone and everything should come first. And the beauty of working with magic mushroom is that we can harness what we call neuroplasticity, rewiring the brain. Because one of the things we want to do is removing that limiting belief that we should be the last one. Mm-hmm. And as much as I love magic mushrooms for anxiety, it has helped me tremendously, because I was like, I was on a scale of 0 to 10, I was a 12, you know, and now I'm probably only a 4, not a 0, but from 12 to 4, it's already very good for me, changed my life. But what I really like to do with microdosing is using this ability to rewire the brain, to remove all this block, this resistance, these beliefs that are blocking me as a person, as a woman, as an entrepreneur, and that makes me make the wrong decisions and make me always feel guilty, ashamed, and that is really energy sucking. You know, that when you're always feeling, you know, like this negative feeling, you're exhausted because it kind of drains you. So very often when we talk about mindset, we look at the conscious mind and, you know, let's reprogram our conscious mind. But, you know, the conscious mind is only 1/7 of the overall mind. And your conscious mind will be override by your unconscious mind all the time. So you need to really look at what is really going to make a difference. And it starts with calming your nervous system and changing your belief and removing your blocks.
So this is something, and before listeners like turn off this podcast, because oh my gosh, they're talking about drugs. I have to go back because we were always taught, you know, 5th grade in the dairy program, don't do drugs. So when you hear microdosing, when you hear psychedelics, when you hear mushrooms, it's like, okay, those are drugs. And I really stopped because now that marijuana has been legalized in a lot of states, and so there's a lot of people that are taking marijuana. Please don't drive when you do that. But anyway, there's a difference. And I've started to think, okay, so people are drugging themselves with pharmaceutical, synthetic drugs that they rely on. And when I say they rely, very much addicted to it, because without it, they can't function or they can't do things. And so that's okay. Like pain pills. I've had lots of surgeries. I've taken lots of pain pills, and that's okay because it's prescribed by a doctor. But then you have these mushrooms or these psychedelics that, oh my gosh, it's drugs. And so walk us through, I mean, is it under the direction of a doctor, or is it something that you get from Canada? Is it?
Let me give you a bit of an overview on that. So let's start with the legality, because you're absolutely right. In some places it is legal, in some places it is not. And if we come back in history, psychedelics were legal before President Nixon actually changed the legislation and put them illegal. And psychedelics were actually at the time prescribed by doctors. And they were even used to help veterans with alcoholism, addiction to alcohol. So they were really something that were studied, and they were used, like today, maybe you were mentioning Prozac, without the negative of Prozac, because there is no addiction with psychedelics, and you cannot overdose either. So you have actually way less danger than a lot of pharmaceutical drugs you were mentioning. So what has changed is simply one day someone decided to take someone from colon A and put it in colon B. So I could do the same thing. So for example, Advil, if you're trying to buy Advil in Europe, you need to be older than 16 years old. So these are regulations that, I don't know, sometimes one day someone decide, let's change things. And that's what happened to psychedelics. Of course, I'm not going to go into a political story here. There were a lot of reasons why President Nixon decided to put psychedelics as a drug and to ban them. A lot of political reasons, but that's not the topic of our conversation. But what I'm trying to explain is that it is not a substance that is coming out of nowhere. It had been used in medical context. It had been used in religious context. It's something that has existed forever. In the context of magic mushrooms, they're obviously natural. They're mushrooms. So we're talking about something that is not new. We tend to think it's new, but it's absolutely not new. In the last 20 years, there's been a resurgence of interest in psychedelics, especially I would say this last 10 years. Maybe you heard the term psychedelic renaissance. And this is because the challenge we've seen with mental health issues have not been solved with our traditional tools, which is mainly psychotherapy and prescribed medicine. You are mentioning Prozac and things like that. So the medical establishment has decided, well, let's go back to psychedelics because we were onto something. So now you're actually trying to undo 60 years of ban and catching up on medical studies. So I'm giving that context because I don't want people to think that, okay, psychedelics, it's like microdosing heroin or, like it's absolutely not that. These are medicines that had been studied, that were prescribed in the past, and that are more and more studied right now. So this is very different than other drugs. I was like you, to be totally honest. I had never taken recreational drugs in my entire life. So for me, it was a huge step when I decided to microdose psychedelics, because I was like, most of the people who are listening today, drugs are bad. Just say no. You cannot take and you're going to get blind, or all these things we've been, brainwashed with since we were a kid, And so I did a lot of research. I spoke with a lot of experts before deciding myself to microdose. So I want to give that context. It doesn't mean that it is necessarily legal where you are. It is in Colorado, it is in Oregon, but it is not everywhere in the US, and it is absolutely not federally regulated in the US. Canada is not legal either. But what's happening in Canada is that we have shops at every corner. So maybe I am exaggerating, not every corners, but maybe in Toronto you have 15 shops that sell magic mushrooms. So it's in that gray zone where the government has not changed the legislation, but is tolerating mushrooms. And we're seeing actually lawsuits right now from patients suing the government because they say, you're preventing me to have access to treatment that can help my depression, that can help PTSD, that can help. So it's really changing, but I really want people to understand that it might not be legal where they are, and they might have to make a choice like I make of civil disobedience, of saying, you know what, I'm not waiting 10 years in order to feel better in my life. But it's a decision you have to take yourself. It's not something that I or anyone should tell you what to do. Yeah.
See, it's so interesting because I know I have somebody that's very close to me that suffers from a whole lot of mental disorders. And so he was in a pretty dark place in his life, and he heard that his uncle was taking some psychedelics under the direction of a physician. So the physician was observing him. But this person decided to take some the gummy acids. I don't know what
LSD maybe. Yeah.
Okay, that's probably what it was. And
if acid is LSD, so I don't know. I guess maybe it's LSD.
I don't take drugs, so I don't know. But anyway, so they took one, didn't really have an effect, and took a second one, and next thing you know, he's overdosed in the hospital. Police were called, like his house was destroyed because he went crazy. Yeah. And so I want to caution people that I like how you said I did a lot of research and I had to decide for myself what my decision was, because I think everybody needs to be aware of what it is. And this person who decided to take acid, it was not a psychedelic mushroom, and he really did go off the deep end and has suffered a lot because of that since. And so this is a topic that it was way out of my box. But I want people to be aware of different alternatives, because you never know. And
in that context, where did he source his product? Was it even acid, or was it something else? And that is the challenge, is that so I developed microdosing products with a clinic in British Columbia because it is a product they offer to their own patient in the context of their clinic. So if people are interested, they can go on my website, they can order it. We sell it in the US, in Canada. These are products that are developed by a clinic. So high quality, but the challenge is that you end up with people buying I don't know what from I don't know whom, and they give after a bad name. And it's a bit if you were buying any type of prescribed medication on a random website on Amazon, and then you have a problem and you're saying it's the medication. It's likely that it was not even the real medication, it was a fake, you know? And I think that's the challenge. It's also to understand it is your responsibility to make sure if you decide after doing all your education and your research that you want to go in that direction, it is your responsibility to source quality products, to take the right amount in the right frequency. Because I could go tomorrow to any liquor store, or even worse, to some random guy selling liquor, you know, on the corner store, in the corner of a road, buy 3 bottles of red wine, which is not red wine, which is whatever, and then say, well, red wine is killing me. You know what I mean? So it's in that context, the story just shows that it's someone who didn't do his homework, you know, and took anything without asking himself any question. Could have been anything. Could have not been psychedelics. Could have been something else.
So a funny story about that. So I was dating this guy once, and his daughter had gone to Europe, and she came back, and she went to Spain, and she bought olive oil on the street, and it was in a beautiful packaged bottle. And so she brings it home and gives it to her dad as a gift. And her dad, like, he had my family over. He made this really nice dinner, spaghetti, or I don't know, some pasta. And so I love the bread where you dip in the oil and balsamic vinegar. So I'm like, I couldn't wait. So I put the oil with the balsamic. I dip my bread in. I take a bite, and I'm like, oh. And I quickly go over to the sink and I start washing my mouth out, and I'm foaming at the mouth. I'm literally foaming at the mouth because of the fish soap, the oil fish soap. So that's it. The exact point that you're trying to say is, I mean, you don't know what you're buying if you buy it off. And so everyone had a laugh at my expense. It was the most disgusting thing, but it was supposed to be olive oil, and it wasn't. And so, yes, it has to be in a very safe place.
Exactly. If that's a fun story, but it's exactly that. You know, and it's better actually your story of the olive oil, because otherwise people say, well, alcohol is still whatever, but it's the point of buying a substance, any substance, you know. And I thought you were going to say it was water, but I guess it was not, you know, thick enough. So it's a great story. But so again, you need to make sure the product is good. You're taking the right amount in the right frequency and all of that. It's not complicated, but you need to do your homework. Yeah.
So do you need to take it under supervision, or is it safe to take? And what happens after you take it? Do you know what's going on?
So so that's 2 different things. What you see under supervision, it's usually because it's big dosage. So it's going to be 3 to 5 grams. People going to have hallucinations. The goal is to really work through like big traumas or things like that. So that is something that you absolutely need to go under supervision. Supervision can be a shaman, a guide for some people who are taking more of a spiritual, religious route, or for some people who like better the medical route under a doctor and this type of thing. So you see, for example, ketamine assisted therapy, you see mushroom assisted therapy, MDMA, and that is big amount. What I'm talking about is really, so just to compare for mushrooms with a practitioner for a big trip, you would take between 3 to 5 grams.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What you take when you microdose, you take 100 milligram.
Wow.
So it's like 1/20th, 1/50th of what you take. So when you take it, you don't feel anything. That is the whole point.
Okay.
It's like, for example, if you're taking, I don't know, whatever supplements, omega-3 or, vitamin B in the morning, it is the same thing. You are not feeling anything. It's just working in the background.
That completely blows my mind. I had no idea. I thought it's like you're going to get a high for a little while and then you have to come back to reality. So no, it's like a pain pill in terms of Tylenol or Advil or ibuprofen. So it's just helping your subconscious is what you said.
So it's really, calming your nervous system,
Okay.
but not with these prescription drugs that are more managing the symptoms. The beauty with psychedelics is that they rewire your brain. So you're not taking for 20 years, like many people I know actually who've been taking, and it's not a judgment whatsoever. I'm just
Okay.
saying that I see that a lot. People taking anti-anxiety or anti-depression medication, which initially were made for a very short period of time. You're supposed to take this medication when, you have a big problem in your life and you need that to overcome it. But now we use it as a lifelong medication. And actually studies are showing now that you have correlation between the use of this medication and dementia and Alzheimer.
Wow.
So that is a big challenge. And I recommend people who are listening, never believe to what anyone say. Do your own research. I'm sure you can very quickly look and do a Google or whatever and find clinical studies, not a little post on TikTok. Very easy, very easy to look. And you'll see actually that there is more and more research connecting the long-term use of this medication with very, very challenging mental health disease later in life. Yeah.
That is amazing. There's just not a lot of talk. I mean, you've actually opened my eyes to a lot of stuff that when you first said microdosing, I'm like, uh-oh. That's interesting. And so what type of side effects are there any that people have had that they should be aware of?
Well, I would not call it side effect, but if you're pregnant, obviously that's not a great idea to microdose. If you're breastfeeding, you should not either. People who have very heavy mental health issue like schizophrenia, it's not recommended to use psychedelics even in very small dosage. But in terms of side effect, I would say the only side effect is if like that person you were mentioning, you're buying bad product, you're not following the guidelines in terms of quantity and in terms of frequency. But if you're having quality products and you're taking the right amount and with the right frequency, there is absolutely no challenge. And as I said, a lot of studies were shown that you don't get addicted with psychedelics. You actually don't overdose. That's why I'm not sure your friend or the friend of a friend was actually taking psychedelic, because you cannot overdose on psychedelic actually.
That's interesting. And so is it called psilocybin? What's the name?
Yeah, so psilocybin is the name of the kind of active component in the magic mushroom. So, you have two type of mushrooms. Maybe you're taking yourself, what ashwagandha, reishi, lion's mane, that are very, very good for, I don't know, your eyes, your brain, that are all legal mushrooms, adaptogens. And then the mushrooms that have this psychedelic components, they have this added substance that is called psilocybin. So that's why when you say you're microdosing psilocybin, but technically it's magic mushroom. You can call it whatever you want, but yeah, psilocybin. That's the active component.
Gotcha. But if people our listeners wanted to research, then it could be.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And actually, psilocybin was named by the FDA in 2018 breakthrough treatment for depression. So it is, as I said, it's not like woo woo, coming from the jungle. We're in 2024, so it's been 6 years already that the FDA, and breakthrough therapy means that the FDA thinks that it will be a treatment more successful than anything else that is on the market already. That's what it means.
Well, and like I said, I would prefer to take more natural things. I
Exactly.
look back at, I feel like it's this lost art where the Native Americans, or you had Chinese, or just in general, go 200 years back and further. There was
Exactly.
all the plants and everything that was there. Everyone knew how to use those plants for medicinal reasons. And now we're so used to as a society, and I'm guilty of, oh, I don't feel good. Let me pop a pill. Let me pop a pill. Let me pop,
Exactly.
right? And so that is not probably the best either because it's synthetic.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can do all natural type stuff that can help you
Yeah.
even better.
Yeah.
So
Well,
people don't go into that enough.
and technically you're also popping a pill because the mushroom is in a cap,
Right.
So you're not necessarily changing in a sense that, okay, now you have to rage during the weekend and, cut your things, whatever, like it's as user friendly
Right.
than what you're mentioning with maybe a Prozac or different type of antidepressant or anti-anxiolytic. So it's not adding complexity to the life. It is just that obviously I recommend people doing their research, and technically you should do your research even if you're prescribed by a doctor.
Absolutely.
It's too important. Your life, your health is too important to just believe what someone says. You don't know, are they really good at what they're doing? Do they have an incentive financially or whatever? You don't know that. So always, always do your research. And I always advise second opinion. Second opinion. Yeah.
And maybe
Yeah.
even a third.
Maybe even a third, exactly.
My daughter, she's going through some things, and she was prescribed some medication, and it's two different kinds now. She's deathly ill, like very, very sick, throwing up all the time. I'm like, stop taking these meds. And
Yeah.
well, my doctor told me I need to. I'm like, clearly
Yeah.
your body's telling you no. And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I cannot advocate enough that you have to make sure that you stand up for yourself and you advocate for yourself.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
are the only one that knows how you feel, and nobody else can tell you how.
Yeah. And that's one of the big challenge I have to admit for women is that we are not necessarily listened at the same way a man would. So you have to be okay being the annoying woman. Doesn't matter. You don't care what that person think of you.
Yeah.
They want to think you're annoying. Good for them. Bad for them. It's not your problem.
Yeah.
You want what's best for you. And if it means you're sounding annoying, doesn't matter.
And no one needs to know. It doesn't. Are you going to go publish? My son on Sunday, I got a call, and my son couldn't talk, and he was just like struggling for air, gasping for air. He was with his grandparents. He called his dad. We're not together, and I said I need to go to the hospital, and none of them would do anything. And so they called me. I was 15 minutes away from the grandparents, and so I asked them to bring him to me, but they didn't, and so I headed immediately up there, and he was gasping. He could not breathe, and nothing was happening. I tried to give him a whole bunch of different stuff medically, thinking he was having an asthma attack or an allergy attack because he has tons of allergies and he has asthma. Nothing I gave him worked. So I said, okay, we got to go to the hospital because his oxygen stats were 83. So we go, and they start to do some tests, and they find out he has a hole in his lung that he got from coughing, which weird.
Oh, okay.
But at the time, the ex thinks, oh, I'm overreacting. I'm a hypochondriac, is actually constantly always uses. And I'm like, how can you say that when everything has been diagnosed? And so here my son, he could not breathe. He said he felt like he was trying to breathe through a sock, is a good analogy. And so 3 days later, he gets out of the hospital. The ex takes him hiking. I'm like, what are you thinking? He can't do anything. And you can tell I'm bitter and angry about this, but because I pay the hospital bills, he won't. And so it's like, you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You have to advocate. And no matter what anybody says or anybody thinks, if this helps you and it's working for you, then fantastic. And
exactly.
So I think that's the takeaway, that it's a different alternative that I honestly probably never would have even considered until
I think, Charisse, you really said the most important takeaway, I hope, for everyone to listen to. Don't listen to naysayers. You're not there to justify yourself. If homeopathy, if essential oils, if microdosing makes a huge difference for you, good for you. I have a tendency, I don't argue with people. You want to tell me what I'm doing is stupid? Good for you. I'm not here to change your mind. It works for me, and that's the only thing that matters. Like, I don't need scientific evidence and show me the universe's energy and whatever. If it works for me, it works for me, period. And placebo effect, even if it's a placebo, mind is so powerful. Right. If it creates a solution and it can heal my body, I'm taking it. So that's probably, to your point, the most important takeaway. Do what's good for you. Who cares, what overthink and tell you? Yeah.
It absolutely is. And I love that you've advocated for yourself. And I love that you're putting this out to teach more people about something that could be a benefit to them. And for those that are screaming at their phones or screens right now that this is horrible, and that's okay. My job is to make sure that you know alternatives, that you know options, and that if something can help you, great. If it can't, move on.
And maybe in a year or two, you'll try it and then it's going to work, like there are things as well, it's timing related. And sometimes we're not there yet to accept something. Actually, I'm developing another product with that clinic, which would mimic the effect of this microdosing psilocybin, but only with mushrooms that are non-psychedelic. So it would be 100% legal, because I still have many people telling me, that's great, I would love to have that, but just the fact that it's illegal, I'm not going to touch it. And I respect that. That's your choice. Everyone decide what they want to do. Personally, I put my health first, but I totally understand that many people would say, no, it's not legal. I'd rather suffer and wait.
No, and that's true. Do you obey the laws of the land? Do you not? And so that's something that you have to decide. And I am not pushing illegal drug use or any type of anything to get in trouble and you get arrested and I'm pulled into court. So it's an option that people can know. But let me ask you, does it help with ADHD and does it help with
so it's fabulous for focus and attention. If you look at the three type of benefits of microdosing psilocybin, the first is mental health. So we talk about anxiety, depression, very, very big value. The second is performance. And what I say with performance is attention, focus, creativity. And so I wrote two books. There is one that you can see behind me, but I wrote another manuscript. I wrote the draft in 10 days. That's how focused I was. So it is extremely, extremely helpful. I'm working with clients who actually have ADHD, and it has really improved their ability to focus and, be less distracted. So that is a big, big value. And the third bucket is really about connection with others and connection with oneself. So it's way better to have, it's way easier to have empathy, to have compassion for yourself, which is important, and for others as well. So, family dynamic, in work dynamic, you're way more of a team player, and it's easier for you to understand why maybe someone is so difficult, and it's easier to handle relationships. So when you microdose, you benefit from all of that. I started microdosing for mental health, but I was very happy to get the benefits of performance and connection. It's not one or the other, but it's coming as a package, kind of. Yeah.
That's interesting. And how did you find out about this?
Well, it's very interesting because my anxiety and depression were getting really bad. And so I used to be in finance. So I was reading a lot of publications like The Economist, Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal. And suddenly I could not open a publication without having an article on psychedelics for depression, stress, mental health. But what really convinced me to look into it was actually an article in a woman's magazine, Harper's Bazaar, saying that moms are microdosing mushrooms. And I was like, okay, if moms microdose mushrooms, because great venture capitalist, I'm very happy that you microdose, tech entrepreneur, very happy, but doesn't really do it for me. Mom when a mom is confident enough that it's going to work, I'm like, okay, that is interesting. So that's when I decided to really look into it and make my own decision. Yeah, that was the ultimate nudge I needed.
Wow. And how safe is it for children? Do you not recommend, like, what age should you?
Well, I would not, I would not recommend anything. I would look at it the same way we look at any medicine. Usually for kids, you wait until they're adult, like for this type of medicine. So for me, like 20, this age when you're like a young adult, I would not do that with kids. And I know a lot of people are thinking ADHD in children and whatever. But there has not been studies on children. As long as there haven't been studies, I would not really test it, to be totally honest. Yeah.
My suggestion, probably take out sugar and see how they feel.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. So many lifestyle change that can be done as well. I know that I'm the first one. The easy button is usually let's take a pill versus, working out and eating well. But the reality is you're absolutely right. Better diet's going to change a lot with attention. I know actually of kids who have seen tremendous results when the parents really made an effort in the diet, like huge results. Yeah.
That's true. Well, Peggy, thank you so much. You have opened a world that I never knew existed. I'm not naive. And I really appreciate it. Is it something where you now feel like because you're a mom, right? Do you feel like it has affected you in a better way where you can now manage all the things that you feel like you need to manage?
And actually I'm not a mom. I am a mom of 2 cats, but not a mom of kids. But what I see with a lot of my clients, friends who are moms and executives or entrepreneurs and all of that, is that they're way more present.
Okay.
And I think that is very important, is that instead of just like running logistic, they can actually be more engaged and create that space where you're actually enjoying your time with your kids. And I think that was probably the most important. I remember one of my clients, Mel, actually told me, my daughter said something and I had such a huge belly laugh. And then I realized it had been so long since we had laughed together. Wow. Yeah, that was very powerful. So that's what I mean, like you're really more engaged. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. Yeah,
it did. Absolutely. Any questions I didn't ask you that I need to have?
No, I just really want to, I think we mentioned it several times, but to re-emphasize, make your own judgment, do your own research. If you decide it is good for you, buy quality product. What I say seems obvious, but we tend to skip this step. So really, really be a reasonable adult in that process.
That's great. Well, Peggy, thank you so much. If our listeners wanted to learn more, how could they find you or where would they go?
Yeah, well, they can find me on my website, which is called themicrodosediet.com. But if they just Google my name, they should find a lot of information. I have a newsletter, a free newsletter, so they would find a lot of information on microdosing. I have published a book that's called More, the Microdose Diet, so they can find a turnkey guide on microdosing. So just with my name, they should be able to find a lot of information.
Well, thank you so much. And moms, this was a controversial topic, I'm sure, for some of you. But if it could be something that you could benefit from, then I highly recommend that you look into it more. It's called microdosing. And I hope that you go out and make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.